good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gameweek 13 pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Late Riser and Prus. Welcome back, LR. How you been?
Beaten. That's one word to describe how I've been IRL and in with FPL. Not been good, man. Not been good. But I was talking to Pras today. Variance has taken, variance will give as well. We have to be patient. But let's talk about the man of the moment. Sitting at 55k now, Pras. Triple digit rank incoming. How's it going, man?
Dude, I'm already at nosebleed section, and what can I say? Like, people actually who hate me talking about luck, variance, and all these things are gonna hate it if I have a good season, because I feel filthy. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, I just can't. How can you make a transfer and you sell Haaland out, and the guy you get, like the cheapo Cunha, outscores him by 25 points in 3 weeks? Like, how can you justify that? How can you justify captaining Salah over Haaland, where all predicted models have them 50-50, and the guy scores like 40 more points if you include captaincy? It's just filthy luck, and I'm happy to get it, but at the same time, people who are in my board should be a little, humble. People who are not humble, they don't do well, as we see with Erling Haaland. So look, I think very happy where I am, but it's disgusting. Like, at this point, when Isak was playing on Monday night, I was like, if Isak scores 2 goals, I won't be able to show my face. Like, this is going to get really embarrassing. So it's actually reached that level.
So humble, Prus. So humble.
No, it's not about humble. It's about, look what happened in the Champions League. Like, Salah misses a penalty, Haaland scores 2 goals, even though the performances were similar. Liverpool had a fantastic win against Real Madrid. Salah did nothing. Man City had a very disappointing draw against an easy team, but Haaland scored a brace. So for FPL, you could have actually walked away with the same result, team performances being similar, having one guy scoring -1 points and the other scoring 13, 14 points. And when you double that, people suddenly go, you're an idiot if you have Salah instead of Haaland.
FPL Hero just commented that Pras is the GOAT, nothing lucky. I agree there. I do agree there's a fair amount of luck involved, but Pras, I do think you underplay that you played FPL really well this season. Been following your team selection videos closely. You've always got an eye 6, 7, 8 weeks down the line. So I think you at least for sure deserve the credit there. Well done, and I'm actually quite excited for the season you have ahead. So let's hope the arrows keep being green, 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 and green.
No, thank you. I'm happy with the start, and I'm always, team selection is a lot easier. Like, when you have a good week versus not a good week. So I am thankful for the luck. But yeah, look, I think planning has always been part of it. But there's other seasons where just it does not work out. So everyone who's not having a great season, I can only give examples of people who've had this turnaround in the last 3 weeks, and the reverse also. So there's a third of the season, 2/3 of the season is left. It will swing again.
That's what I sort of want to talk about largely on this pod, right? Do you sort of, like somebody like, who's now has Haaland, do you sort of accept, and I use the word defeat loosely, right? Do you accept defeat and go, okay, fine, I'll sell Haaland now? Or do you expect Haaland to go all bell bottoms, go so out of fashion that it actually comes back in fashion, right? Yeah. So that's something I want to get your guys' view on. Let's kick off first with our sponsor plugs.
No, wait, there's some more. It's too early for sponsor plugs. There's a little bit of therapy, I think that...
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
I know. Just a little bit of therapy, I think it's important for people that have actually been in our boards of. That, both of us are at least substantiating the loss because we own Salah, you captain Salah. So it's not been that bad for us. There are people that are sitting there that don't own Salah or Cunha, and for them it's really, really bad. And just want to cite my own example. And first things first, you need to not take this game so seriously, where you ruin your weekend, and by virtue of ruining your own weekend, you ruin the weekend of people around you by being moody, etc. So I think the best thing to do, that what I did, because on Saturday was brutal for me. I had Haaland captain, I had Evan Nielsen and Raul Jimenez. Between the three of them, they had like 2.4 XGI and an offside goal and 0 returns to show for it. So you're literally seeing the bad end of the skit. I think the important thing is to log off Twitter, log off everybody, everywhere where people are talking football. At least it's what works for me. And the next day, just don't think about football. Like the IPL was on, the India Test match against Australia was on. I immersed myself in that sort of content, spent some time with your family. And what happened, what I found that helped me is Monday onwards, I was ready for FPL again. My mind was more tuned towards thinking in a forward path. And I think if you are able to see off that day where you've actually been beaten by FPL, which will happen a lot in the future. We play this game we'll get beaten or not. I think the best thing to do is just give it a day, sleep it over. Like I was very mindful. I saw the Raul fall and the Pedro rise happening on Saturday, but I was very mindful of keeping my paths open for later in the week. So I think just taking a day off when you get hit kind of helps.
Yeah. I was raging on Saturday. I needed to do one transfer at least. I ended up doing the Raul to Pedro one. I kept the second one dry because I still couldn't feel as confident selling Haaland. Right? It's easier to sell a Raul to a Pedro than it is to sell a Haaland. So I need you guys. I wanted to talk to you guys. I said whatever price rises happen, I need to talk to you guys first before doing it.
Yeah, and it's an important moment in the season. I think the path, especially for both of us, of that we take now, can be quite defining in terms of the swing that comes our way or goes against us. So it's important to chat it out.
Absolutely, and I think right and when we went to the three big premium policy, I had mentioned to you it's a 3-week experiment. I want to see what it goes like for these 3 weeks, and then I'll assess how we go about it. And things have changed now. Obviously, now Arsenal playing so well. We've seen them now being back to the best, Odegaard being back, Timber now completing that triangle on the right, which Saka has been missing. That's changed expectations. I think the midweek result also, if let's say City had won 3-0, we hadn't seen Pep Guardiola with those battle scars on his face. I think we would have been a bit more optimistic about City. Now the news also about Konate is he might be fit for Sunday. If Konate was out, so there's a lot more information that I think we have learned over the week, right?
And just a lot more processing in terms of the layers to the decision that we have in front of us now is just a lot more deeper in terms of more thought through. So we'll talk about it. I'm no closer to making a decision, but we'll chat it out.
Cool. Sponsor plug?
Yeah. So big sponsor plug today actually. Fantasy Football Scout have rolled out a Black Friday offer, and I think I'm glad we're doing this pod on Thursday because what essentially Scout is offering is you get 7 days free. Now, if you actually take, and this is on till Sunday, so if you take advantage of this offer either today or tomorrow or Saturday, because we have a midweek game week, essentially you're going to get access to the members area data for 3 game weeks for free. So, whether you want to become a member for Scout later or not, totally your call, but try it out. Like now is the time to try it out, see how it looks, see if it helps you during a constrained 3 game week period, and let us just think about whether you want to continue with the membership or not, because they're giving you 7 days free. And it's just not the members area data. There's a lot of good member articles extra in there as well. Get the feel of it and see how you feel. And if you want to try it out, click on the link in the description below because it helps us out as well.
And as you guys know, the NordVPN has been a long-term partner of the FPL Wire. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services, and if you're traveling outside your country, you can access your home library content. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire will receive an additional 4 bonus months on top. TV show recommendations, guys. Pras, what have you been watching?
Dude, season 3 of From just finished. It's incredible. It's great. And I see so many tags now.
It, Pras. I saw 4-5 episodes, just felt too much budget loss.
Like, we need to discuss, man. We need to discuss. Like, it's, yeah. And then
but a lot of people have been worried about getting closure on that show because of what happened with Lost. Do they get closure after season 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can confirm. No, I'm not obviously not giving away anything, but they've learned from their mistake and they actually reveal stuff. Like we've just come to season 3 and there was this big reveal at the end of season 3. Again, not giving anything more, but it's a good show. I like it, and it's my kind of stuff, right? Because I've talked about other shows that I've liked in the past, like Stranger Things, Dark, Black Mirror.
Baby
It gets
Reindeer.
into Baby Reindeer is a different category. Emily in Paris, different category. I like the genre, so I really enjoyed season 3, and the other one was this Netflix show. What was it? This woman vice president, Diplomat or something like that.
Yeah,
Diplomat.
Yeah. So that was nice. So that's all I've been watching.
I thought you were going to say Bollywood wise for a second there.
No chance. Like, I would admit it if I was watching it, but no chance.
What about you, Ella?
Late to the party, but I'm on episode 4 of The Penguin and absolutely love it. Big Sofia Falcon fan. It's incredible that she's that wife from How I Met Your Mother. Like, incredible. Just kudos to her. What a performance. In awe of the show, and I'm slow burning through it. It helped me with the little viral that I had through the week. And I also started Silo Fans. Second episode of season 2 is out. Now tomorrow episode 3 will be out.
Episode 3 is
I
already
like
out.
Episode 3 is already out. So yeah, Silos begun, and I've quite enjoyed the start.
Yeah, Apple TV is consistent. They also have a good show called Bad Sisters. I think that's up to episode 4 now this season. Then another one with Billy Bob Thornton, Landman, also worth checking out. Cool. Let's move ahead. Wait, I have more of not to plug it. It also has an efficient anti-malware and anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below. Cool, guys. Let's get down to business. What shall we attack first? Heavy hitters, I guess. Sell. Let's talk about selling Haaland. That is the elephant in the room. Plus, you're the one now without Haaland. Where are your views on that?
I can only give you a perspective of the guys who've sold Haaland, right?
Yep.
We are loving seeing people sell Haaland. Like we cannot, everyone who in the timeline who's saying I'm selling Haaland, we love it. Why? Because it makes it less scary when Haaland will play. More people that sell it makes it less scary. And it locks in our gains. Like when I see somebody doing Haaland and Semenyo to Cunha and Salah, I say, okay, I'm 70 points above you. And now you're basically making 2 transfers, which I have made, and I have 2 extra transfers on you and team value. So it's like music to our ears. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a wrong thing, but I'm just saying the perspective of the non-Haaland owners to see people doing it is great, excellent. That's where the template is going, and I'm very happy with that. Whether it's a good decision or not, I mean, let's talk about Man City. Like, where are they going? What's happening with them? Let's do a little bit of City chat. Like, what did you make of the Champions League game? I watched it. And for me, the first 70 minutes, they were pretty good. Like they had their control wingers. They had Bernardo Silva and Grealish, almost like Pep going back to what he knows. And then Foden played in the 10. Haaland played. They were doing well. Then again, something fell apart and they drew. So let's talk Man City first before we go to Haaland itself.
LR, your views?
So there are 2 separate matters here. A, Man City are not a functional team at the moment. That we can see because since Rodri is not fit, I think they've conceded the highest number of big chances in the league, if I'm not mistaken. So they're just not a functional team at the moment. And their problems are more pronounced at the back than they are up front, in my opinion. Like if you look at attacking data, they're still top 3, top 4 in the league for XG. Whether you look at the season or whether you look at the last 6 or last 8, they're doing well. They're posting good attacking numbers. So that's point number 1, that Man City at the moment are not a functional team. But has that led to Haaland's underlying numbers and his output decrease? No. That is the reason why it's a big question. That's the reason why it's a big quandary, right? Because Haaland is still posting an XG a game. He's still getting 2 or 3 big chances a game. He's posting these numbers. He's showing brace hat-trick potential every game, whether that was Spurs, whether that was Sporting midweek, and he's going to be a minutes monster throughout December. So that's the thing. Now, he's finished 2 out of his last 11 big chances, right? So he's underperforming his XGI by a delta -6, delta -7. Now it comes down to your perception. Is he going through a bad run of form? Is the pressure of the team eating him up to such an extent that he's not able to naturally finish? Zoff and I were discussing that first shot when Guardiola passed the ball to Haaland and he had the goal in front of him. And both of us said that if Haaland was confident, he'd have taken that shot a second earlier. There was a little bit of hesitancy in the touch, etc. as well. So I'm trying to give as balanced a view here as possible, right? But the second and the third chances he got, where he took it from this left foot and Vicario saved them, were actually really good saves, and I thought they were good shots from Haaland. So comes down to whether you think he's going to improve his finishing. It comes down to you thinking whether you're going to pay attention to this period of data where he's underperforming his delta by 6. On an average, for the past 5 or 6 seasons, he's a goal and XG kind of guy. He doesn't overperform his data. He's not an elite finisher, but he's not a massive under finisher as well. And if he's constantly posting these numbers, the goals are coming. The goals are genuinely coming. I was talking to Zoff that if you actually delete Man City versus Liverpool from the fixture ticker and post the fixture ticker until Gameweek 22, City sits second on the fixture ticker for the foreseeable. Now, to hold Haaland, obviously people like us are making sacrifices. It's not just Haaland, right? We're letting go of Cunha, who's becoming an absolute baller. Wolves have a great run of fixtures until game week 19-20 at least. Or we're letting go of a mid-price striker. The problem is the optionality if you let go of Haaland in terms of the surplus of strikers that are available, whether you're looking at mid-price, whether you're looking at cheap, it's huge. The surplus of cheap strikers also helps hold Haaland because there are many good cheap enablers in the game. So there's a double-pointed result to that. And we're letting go of an extra premium who is about to hit a great run of fixtures in the name of Saka. Because they have, like Arsenal, look at Arsenal here. Arsenal have a great run of fixtures. So you're going to miss out on Saka because I don't think it's possible to have Saka, Palmer, Mo, and Haaland.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think it's possible.
I mean, it's possible, but you ruin the rest of the team.
Yes, you ruin the rest of the team. But if you're, let's say, if you're wildcarding route, the meta is actually quite good for that sort of team structure because what we've learned, you were on the above average pod where they spoke about bonus. Defense doesn't matter. Like, go 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, rotate that shit because the defenders aren't getting money. Go cheap defenders, rotate them, build a squad, and go with heavy 4 premiums because these 4 are the best picks in the game. So there is a meta there that opens that up, but for us, people who are not wildcarding, that requires a lot of restructuring, etc. Right? So you're letting go of Saka. And how are you combating that? You're combating that with, in most scenarios, picks like Rodgers and Semenyo, who are just not up to it at the moment. Now, people like me are seeking, if we think of holding Haaland, we're seeking confidence in the fact that we hold Rodgers because after this week, Rodgers is playable for the next 2 weeks. Can you go back to the actual fixture ticker only is off where every team is there?
Sure.
Just want to talk about a couple macros and the points to consider, right? So people like us are thinking that Rodgers will see us through. We are okay getting by not having that extra attacker where we're competing against an Isak. Plus if I'm looking at your team versus mine, Rodgers is competing against Isak for that position. But Rodgers plays Brentford at home in 14 and Southampton at home in 15. So I am pinning my hopes on Haaland to match whatever premium you have and Rodgers to compete versus your Isak or such similar price pick at that point. And are you ready for that battle? I mean, I'm with you guys. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just about picking your boat. It comes down to picking your ship because I feel like if you're switching Haaland, you switch this week. Next week onwards, I feel like it just makes sense to hold Haaland. Because in game week, if you can go to the captaincy matrix now is off.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you also about. Captaincy is also a factor in that, right?
Yes, big factor. Because if you're looking at game week 13, Haaland's not a captaincy option. The top 2 captaincy options are Palmer, Salah, and your other captaincy picks like Saka, Pedro, etc. The captaincy option next week, the top 2 are Haaland and Palmer. Correct? The top 2 captaincy options in game week 15, it's kind of dodgy for everybody. In game week 15, Haaland plays Palace away, Saka plays Fulham away, Salah plays Everton away, Watkins plays Southampton home, Palmer plays Spurs. Is that Spurs?
Away.
I can't read
Spurs
it.
away, yes.
Spurs away. So Haaland is in the conversation for the top 2 captaincy picks in game week 14 and 15. Like there's no runaway captaincy option in the other premiums. So do you want to double down and try making up the lost points in game week 14 and 15 by going for captaincy with Haaland? That's the question. And you're in this period betting against Saka, who faces a West Ham. I don't think they've improved. Like West Ham will concede chances to Arsenal, and Arsenal are looking a lot better. Saka is good, incredibly good as a pick. And if I'm downgrading Haaland, I am getting, there's a lot of information in this entire monologue, but I'll just get through with it. I'm getting somebody like Jackson. Now, Jackson's next 3 look incredible. Villa at home, Southampton, and Spurs. They are meant for a transition attacker like Nicholas Jackson. Villa, you saw, Glasner in his post-patch presser said that we spotted the weakness where they play a high line. I just wanted Saar to run through on goal. And that's what Chelsea's going to do with Palmer passing it through Jackson. I guarantee you there's going to be a chance or two where Palmer will play Jackson through on goal and he'll get a shot or 2 off. So it's meant for a counter-attacking sort of play. Do you want to take it on? I don't know, man.
I think let's talk about it a little bit further because what I see from game week 18, there's a significant shift in the fixture run, right? That's when he has Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich. Now, 16, Manchester United, I still expect them to leak a few goals, but they obviously, I think by then won't be in as bad shape as they were under Ten Hag. I think maybe a couple of goals, and Villa away is never an easy fixture. So if you look at it, even Forest, right, against Arsenal, they shipped 3 goals, but it was like, what, 1.2 XG? Given the choice, I had captain Palmer. I think Palmer away to Southampton is a much better fixture based on what I saw. Salah had 5 big chances. They gave up 7 big chances to Liverpool. I think with McCarthy there, no Bednarek. I prefer Palmer over there. In against 16, you probably can go for one of these other guys. You're going to go for a Salah or a Palmer. In 17, it's all open season. But the thing is now, around, plus now tell me this as a non-Haaland owner, do you think you're making plans to get him back around game week 18?
Only if one of Saka, Palmer or Salah either get injured or something changes. Because the problem is in 17, 18, 19, 20, like Saka also is home to Ipswich, right? So it's not like it's easy to sell him. Salah is home to Leicester. So it's not easy to sell him. Then Palmer is home to Fulham, away to Ipswich. Then home to Bournemouth, home to Wolves after that. So it's basically you will come to a state that I am planning to do it, but only if something changes. If everything stays as it is, then no, I'm not planning to get him back.
Yeah, because that also does make a difference. Because let's say now if you're going to sell him this week and plan to buy him back in 18, it doesn't feel as optimal, because then you obviously are going to spend a few transfers to distribute the Hala funds. No one's going to buy a Haaland to a Pedro and let that 10, 11 million sit in the bank. You're obviously going to invest it over 13, 14, 15. And then to take it out is another 2, 3 transfers altogether. So you have to, I think, weigh that up. Obviously, if we see Haaland all of a sudden firing 2, 3 goals, and you'll be like, okay, fine, he's worth a -8. Whoever I have to sell and get to it, and that's fine. That's new information which we might have to ascertain at that point. But at least in the short term, from 13 to 17, I think a combination of, let's say, a Saka and a Cunha outscores something like a Haaland and a Rodgers or a Semenyo. Something like that. That's where I am. Do you agree?
I mean, we saw this matrix, and that's why we came to this conclusion. And this is why it's difficult. But then how can you say that he doesn't score a hat-trick in any of those games? Like,
Absolutely.
I think, so Andy, Let's Talk FPL made a point in one of his videos that he said, we have to stop thinking of Haaland as he can score a hat-trick in one game and take a block of games, like 6 games, and assume that he goes at a run rate of 1 goal a game. And that's basically his average since he's joined the Premier League, right? 1 goal a game, which is actually very impressive. But then when you take into account that other players can also score 0.7 goals a game, 0.8 goals a game, because we have now enough players like that. And I would put Saka, Salah, Palmer in that category. So then you're basically saying that I'm gaining 0.2, 0.3 from it. Again, in the context that Haaland, again, I keep saying it in every video, probably over 13 to 23, Haaland scores the most points. That's what expected data will tell us. That's what market odds will tell us. Whether it happens or not depends on Man City, depends on what you believe. But that's what Haaland is. But then he's also mega expensive. And I think one other thing I wanted to tell you in terms of game theory, if you get to Saka, Salah, Palmer structure, then you're almost like you're catching up. So what it is, it's a safer move, but maybe a more logical move. But if you care less about rank, or I guess everybody cares about rank, but if you don't mind the volatility in a season in rank, like for me, if I was in that position, I would be panicking right now and doing it because for me, a good finish is important. Like I want to be in the top 100K. I cannot take a chance and basically say if I finish top million or 1 million, doesn't matter. If you're of that thinking, then I think this is game theory. Then it comes down to, should I do it or should I not do it? Because I'm giving up 70 points by, the thing I said at the beginning, where if you're doing those transfers, I'm giving up 70 points to people who made that move. I'm giving up 2 transfers. So the alternate path, which I need people to just hear me out on, and again, we'll get comments on how can you even think about selling Salah. Just hear me out in terms of, and this is what we were doing in Haaland, right? In Gameweek 7, we were saying, just think about selling Haaland for a second. You don't need to do it. Just hear us out. Just hear me out in terms of selling Salah. He's home to Man City. We'll talk about captaincy, but I don't think he's the best captain, clear best captain. You can still captain him, but I think Palmer is right there. Next week, he's not the best captain. I would say you don't have to have Salah next week. The week after, if you're holding Haaland instead of Salah, you can easily captain Haaland away to Palace instead of Salah away to Everton. The week after, if you have Isak or if you have Palmer, you can easily captain Palmer at Brentford at home compared to Salah's Fulham at home. Then he plays Spurs away. I think there are better captains available. It gets to a point where you don't actually need to have Salah either. So you see, and this basically comes from the thinking that if you wanted to basically double down, you still wanted to get funds and not basically over commit to stretching your squad by having Haaland, don't have both. So think about doing the other way, where you go complete zag and you say, I'm going to get rid of Salah at a time where he's in huge form. So it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's an idea for people who may want to go different. And it's not completely ridiculous. Like the big Salah captaincy games are out of the picture.
Like I was actually talking to Jazz, and he's in the same situation where he rate sold Haaland on Saturday. He's actually semi-regretting it, and he's considering a free hit this week. There's not enough upside this week, but the thinking is that he's considering a free hit because he wants to still give enough consideration to doubling down on Haaland next week. Because it's not Haaland, right? You're essentially fighting Saka plus Isak / similar price striker with Haaland plus Rodgers. Now Rodgers next 2 weeks gives you another roll of the dice to try it out. The fact is Rodgers actually isn't that good an FPL pick. I think we need to come around to terms of that. He's not that good an FPL pick. So it's chancing your arm. It's rolling the dice, right? So there you go. That's the, and even from like the game theory standpoint, right? Plus I've been in this situation before multiple times where I've had a very poor start to the season. You need to be okay with having a terrible season. And the case that I think it was the first or the second season that we podded off where I was having a very poor start and I decided to double down the other side. I saw a couple of people who went the template route and made steady ground and had a very respectable finish. I doubled down the other side and didn't have a good finish. There was the other season, which was I think last year or last to last year, where again I was in a similar position and I played safe. The reality of the situation is I hated myself for playing safe. I genuinely hated myself because something that Ferguson says is trying not to win is not trying at all, right? Like it's as simple as that. So it comes down to philosophy and temperament. Like, are you giving it a shot? Are you okay with a 3 million rank, 2 million rank? It comes down to that. And it comes down to enjoyment, right? Like Zoff, if this is something that's going to ruin your weekend and you don't have the temperament to handle such a big swing week, firstly, know that the swing and the punches that you've rolled with in the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks is probably as bad as it can get. I don't think it's going to get worse. Like, I think you've seen the worst side of this stick of variance and it will get better. I think if you're looking at averaging to the mean, things will get better. So yeah, comes down to your philosophy, your temperament, whether you're capable of handling it.
I think that's
and I want to reiterate, I'm not suggesting selling Haaland. I can already see in the comments, people are like, go sell Haaland if you want. I'm not saying sell Haaland. I'm just saying there are other routes to play the game if your objectives in the game is different. So actually, LR summarized it really well.
I think you meant sell Salah plus or Haaland, because I didn't understand. The comments in the chat are more for Salah, right?
Yeah, that I was suggesting that there's an alternative route that you can actually sell Salah and then there are other captains.
Sell Haaland, that's why I got confused.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying something.
No, I just think LR summarized it really well. And for somebody like me who generally stays close to the template, I do get it. I think this is more of LR's playing style where he goes against the grain. For me, someone I've always said, you don't be different just for the sake of being different. But ultimately, again, how are you going to make up the 60, 70 points you've lost over the last few games?
Also, like, that's also a very holistic view of looking at just these 60, 70 points. It's less than 1/3 of the season that's being played. We've played only 12 game weeks. There are 26 game weeks still to be played. Like around 70% of the season is still left. So if you think about just the variance that happened in the last 3 or 4 weeks, which has been 70, 80 points off, like trickle along for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And there will be such extreme periods where some other variance will hit you or you will stay ahead of the crowd. Like, we don't have to make up the 70. Let's talk about our team versus process. The 70 points that we lost out on to the Cunha and Salah captain teams, we don't have to make it up right now. Like, there is so much. I remember Danny telling me this where I had sort of given up like a few seasons ago where it was game week 15 or 16 after a heavy. There's still so much FPL left to be played. So it's fine. I don't think you need to make up those 60 points lost right now. That's for sure.
I get the point you're making in that sense. There is a lot to be played, and I think we've not lost out 70 points. I think because we've had Haaland alongside Salah, alongside Haaland rather.
You guys have
So,
had it actually fine better. You
I think we're
captained
in the
Salah
middle.
this week.
Exactly. I captained
Yeah.
Salah this week. So I think we primarily lost out in the Haaland versus Cunha thing, which is so
Correct.
unforeseeable, which is even crazier, right? You can understand at least a Haaland swing, but Cunha outscoring Haaland by like 30 points. That's quite absurd in that
And
sense.
Jimenez missing his sitters because people that probably had Cunha didn't have Raul.
Absolutely, sure. It's ultimately a culmination of a lot of things, but I think obviously for somebody like us who already has a 3 premiums, it's easier to hold on to Haaland, and I think it's a tougher decision. But let's talk about the guys now who don't have Salah. They just have Haaland. For them, right, I think it's become the most frustrating. Plus, now, in that situation, what do you think? Do you go without Salah now?
I mean, it dovetails with what I said earlier. Again, it depends. But I mean, if you're somebody who looks at form, who looks at Liverpool are smashing it, man. I
That's
mean,
what it is.
top of Champions League, top of Premier League. He's the talisman in their team. Makes very little sense not to have a player like that who's cheaper. So, if we're talking another 2 million savings still, if you go Haaland to Salah, and that 2 million can take you from Rodgers up to a 7 million midfielder, a 7.5 million midfielder. So that could be a Bowen. So, I mean, there is merit to doing it, not because they're not even the same price. Like if they were the same price, you can still say, okay, go chance it. 2 million is a lot.
Yep, I'm not
So I
sitting
would
on the
say
fence
yes.
again. I think yes. If you don't have Salah now, sell Haaland and get him. If you're on a 3 premium, I think then essentially what you're taking on is a smaller pool. Then you're taking on Saka and one forward. So I think that is at least more of a debatable, I think more of a 50-50 decision, and that comes down to temperament, like what LR said. But if you don't have Salah, just get him in.
Even temperament aside, right? I think also there needs to be an objective analysis of the points that you're reading through. Like an activity that I plan on doing is, let's say, the 2 paths that I have. One of them involves selling Haaland. One of them involves not selling Haaland. I actually want to list down the players that are competing against each other in of 2 of the paths that I'm going forward with future. And then you have to just take a call. That's why we play this game. It's not an easy game, and then treat it like a game, man. Treat it like a game. Like eventually also know that you can't control the uncontrollables, and don't take it so seriously. Like it's all right. Especially when it comes to these big decisions. The margin of decision is so small, but the margin of outcome will be big. It's fine. You don't have to overthink it so much also.
But one point actually I'll make, and I was going to wait for your team, but because we're talking about this stuff, so let's do it. Like your play style, LR, if you go the no Haaland route, actually for me it suits your play style better. Not because selling Haaland is better, because I feel like I have 1 million sitting in the bank right now. Like I've got all the players. Okay, I've got decent team value, and actually your team value is not too different from mine. It actually makes you play exciting picks between picks 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And that actually makes FPL quite fun because there are so many good picks, even in that other bracket. So forget about premiums. Let's say you've aligned to everybody's premiums on Saka, Salah, Palmer. After that, you feel Jackson, you go Jackson. You feel other sexy defender, you go for Porro. There's other picks that are in the game. There's going to be midfielders. Boomo money is going to be flying around. So I just think that's the way to play when there's no double game weeks, where not everybody is converging to a style or a player or a team, that there is a lot of leeway to play in a no Haaland team. Like it's not conforming. It's only conforming on the premiums.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a good point. Because otherwise I'm shopping just in the cheap bracket, generally. And there's enough weightage in the 7.5 to 9.5 million bracket with the fixtures coming in the future.
So where are we at, guys? LR, what are you thinking?
I'm genuinely like, I'm somebody who doesn't sit on the fence. But I haven't made my mind up, and it's genuinely 50-50. Genuinely 50-50 at the
As
moment.
somebody who owns Salah.
Yes.
As somebody who owns Salah. I'll talk about, let's reverse it, the order of the pod, because it just makes sense, because while we're discussing this and the context to everything is fresh, I'll let you know what my path is. Just bring up my teams off if you don't mind. Because it just makes sense to discuss it right now rather than to do it later.
This is you.
So, yeah, this is my team. I've got Raya as my keeper, Gabriel, Mikolenko, Artnuri, Salah, who's currently my captain, Palmer, Boomer, Rogers, Evan Nielsen, Haaland, Raul, right? So every part that I have in mind, I'm doing Jimenez to Pedro. I just feel like he's the best striker out there. I was close to doing it last week as well. I didn't do it. What are my other options? I've got 2 free transfers and 0.4 million in the bank, right? One option is I just changed Mikolenko to a 4.8 million defender. Primarily, I think I'm looking at, especially with Dunk being back in the squad, Van Eke or Dunk or Hall, somebody of that ilk, or Kirkes. Like, these are the names that I'm looking around with. Or I do Haaland, Raul, and Carvalho to Jackson, because I think Jackson's next 3 fixtures are tremendous. Pedro and Saka. So that gives me a front 8 squad that takes care of the rotation factor, etc. as well. Gives me a strong 8th attacker every single week. The other option, if I want to double down on Haaland, and the exciting path, because I didn't like the idea of upgrading Mikolenko to a 4.8 million defender, because I feel like there wasn't enough juice in the defender I'm buying. Like, I'm not trying to gain ground here. So I thought of Raul to Pedro, Carvalho to Dribbling. So going down from Carvalho to Dribbling, giving me a 4.5 million, at least a playing option compared to Carvalho, who's just not seeing any minutes. His father has told him to get out of Brentford at the moment. Did you see that? Yeah. And I upgrade Lewis to Timber. Because the thinking in my head is that whatever happens, right? Whatever happens, given the current state of my team or most teams, unless you're on Wildcard, it's impossible to have Salah, Palmer, Haaland and Saka. You need to break your bed with 3 of them. So I'm like, I don't think I'm going to able to get Saka if I'm holding on to Haaland. I double down on Haaland, see it through in the next few. I will need money to push funds into the squad. I'll do it later. But I'll give Haaland the captaincy in 14 and 15 and I get my 3rd Arsenal defender. I think Timber's quite attacking. I think he's great for December. I'm not worried about rotation, expected minutes, any of that. So these are my paths that I'm looking at. And while Pras was talking about selling Mo Salah, I was like, you can actually just go very exciting. Take on Pedro as well and just do Salah to Saka and Jimenez to Jackson, who I actually really fancy for the next 3 or 4. So these are the paths that I have, and I'm genuinely 50-50 between holding Haaland and selling Haaland at the moment.
Pras, your thoughts first?
I mean, I think holding the 3 best picks at the moment is not wrong, right? I mean, like, despite what everybody is telling you, my only issue with triple Arsenal defense works, right? I mean, even though I'm a big Saka fanboy, I'm also an Arsenal defense fanboy. So triple Arsenal defense is not bad. A lot of people actually went there last week, and so it actually gets you good Arsenal or all Arsenal. It gets you good premiums. I just feel where that squad will be, if you find anything more interesting, you will want to sell one of the 3 premiums anyway. So my question to you is basically, if next week you get excited about a midfielder or a striker, who are you selling? You have no money. You have no maneuverability in that team. So that's my one issue with that setup, where it looks good now, but it looks good if you were to basically leave that team and not touch it for 8 weeks and come back in January. It doesn't look that good if you have other things to do. Maybe Mbumo will create that little bit of flexibility, but you can only go down from Mbumo. You can't go to Bruno. So it's things like that. So that was my one criticism of that route.
But he's the only option above that I'll want. I scanned through the thing. The only option that I'll want above Mbumo is Bruno. There isn't anybody else.
Yet. We don't know that. And plus your Perma playing Rogers or Dribbling. Like, there are issues there, but it's not obvious. So I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying those are the cons. Like, there's obviously lots of pros for having the best 3 captains of most weeks. And the other route, they both make sense. How much money in the bank would you have if you do Haaland and to Jackson and who was it?
2 million
Carvalho to in the bank still.
In the bank still 1.5, 2 million odd.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. You could get Trent soon, like after releasing some money. You could get, that's basically what I feel is your place.
Yeah.
Where you have that money, you do what you want.
I also have an affinity to City strikers being as differential as possible. Genuinely, they serve me well. And my issue is, I think a lot of people see Haaland as a rubbish pick now that he's not performed. And if you closely watch the highlights, he was on for a brace every game. He was genuinely on for a brace every game. I think there's a little bit of people forgetting the disparity with City not functioning as a team versus Haaland still putting up the numbers.
That's what happened midweek.
He's still putting up incredible numbers. He's not putting up average numbers. He's putting up the best numbers in the league. Hands down. If you ask me who's the best premium in the game right now, still it's Erling Haaland. His underlying data is not lying. So that's the thing that's making me like. So my thing is, how long can I allow myself this needle? And the thing is, the closer you get to 18, the closer you are going to allow yourself the needle, because I'm telling myself that, you know what, I'll give myself Forest captaincy and Palace captaincy and see where we are after that. No chance Gameweek 15 with 18's good run, 2 or 3 gameweeks away, am I going to say I'm going to sell Haaland now? So this is the week you make your bet.
Absolutely. I just want you to be wary, though, of hopping off to a third Arsenal defenders, because I think the short-term fixtures, I don't particularly like them. West Ham, I would say, is a decent opportunity for a clean sheet, but they have looked a little bit better. There's some momentum that they will carry from the Newcastle game. Manchester United, and then it's Fulham, that's away. The run after that is still decent. They could get 2 or 3 clean sheets, but the next 3 don't seem ideal for me for a triple up in defense.
Yeah, like there's a macro thinking of me where there's basically no value in investing in defense at the moment. I'm like, then why am I doing that? I will need money for a boomer upgrade later. So why am I spreading the money or spending the money there? Press has very nicely mentioned that Rico Lewis has early kickoffs in 18, 19, 20. 2 of them are really good games where Rico will probably play one of the 2. Everton and Leicester, if I'm
Even
not
Forest,
mistaken.
right?
As well.
You don't expect him to play against Liverpool. There's a very good chance he starts Forest there.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that why not just go cheap in defense, get your Dunk or Van Heck and be done with it. And keep the Saka option open, because I think Saka's a bloody fabulous pick. I just think he's a really, really good
The
pick.
comments
so
in the
figure out.
Discord were quite hilarious. I went through the Arsenal channel today. Why don't you share them with our viewers?
Just a listener. So I infamously betted against Salah, and this is deja vu. I was telling Pras how good a pick Saka is just before he went on that great run, because the numbers were there. This is where I sold him for De Bruyne. And Zoff, you were not there on that pod. I clearly remember it was a turning point in my season last year, and I sold him. And Saka went on an insane run. So I was talking to the Arsenal guys about whether the third Arsenal pick should be Saka or Timber. And everybody was like, for the benefit of the Discord, you should get Timber. For the benefit of the Discord, you shouldn't get Saka. So that happened. But yeah, man.
Ruthless.
But that's what the game did. I think at some point, you know what? You have to just say fuck it and not take this game seriously.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just chance your arm, and it's all right. Like I think having 2 terrible seasons has actually made me more immune to wanting that 10k to 100k finish, like 200k finish, 250k finish, 500k finish. What does it matter? Like I've told myself I want one more top 100 finish to complete the hat trick, and that's it, right? So you have to chance your arm. That's about it.
Cool. Let's talk captaincy a little bit for this week.
Well, wait.
We talk schedule. Should we do that stuff?
Look, we have to talk schedule as well. What did you want to talk about, Edar, prior to that?
I mean, people are looking at trend replacements. People are in the market for defenders. People are asking if they should jump on Cunha right now. There's a lot to be discussed.
There's a lot today, and there's a deadline tomorrow. That's why we have to be brief, but as well as comprehensive. But let's talk schedule first, right? I think the schedule will dictate a lot, and I think the plus you've summarized it a lot in your video. So I think let's not go too much in detail. Repetition will be there. So let's just walk through it real quick.
I mean, I think the hours are here, right? There's a really nice scout article. So we're not going to repeat the hours. Like there are certain teams that you see at the top of this chart that are playing Sunday, weekend, midweek and Saturday. That's bad. So under 70 hours for the 3 games, that's bad. So you need to see your own expected minutes for certain players. Like Gakpo or Diaz are not starting 3 games. That is true anyway, but during this period, definitely not. Man City, it becomes even more of a risk. But you can also see it as an opportunity. Like Zoff said, you know, whichever game Walker starts, he's not starting again 2 days later. So you can always play that little bit of a guessing game with somebody like a Rico. Obviously, Haaland should start most games. Villa is again, you know, they had a tough fixture against Juventus yesterday, and then they again go into a Sunday, midweek, Saturday kind of schedule. So it's tough on these teams. And then Man United, like people who have Garnacho, people who have some of the wing backs, I would not be confident. Like we know not much about Man United, but just the rest times tell us that it's going to be difficult. And the other end of the spectrum, you have Wolves, West Ham, Brighton. They have a fairly easy 14, 15, 16. Because in Brighton's case, they're playing on Friday. And then in other cases, they're either playing the Sunday or even the Monday. So there is a lot of time in between. That's all we wanted to say in terms of sort of the schedule. And you can make your mind up in terms of what it means for the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 players within those in terms of minutes.
There's something I want to
I
touch
just
on.
wanted to add
Go ahead, Ella.
very quickly that Arsenal and Chelsea in particular have a good schedule now, and also in that 18 to 21 period where it's quite tight as well. So just wanted to add that these 2 teams have a really good scheduling happening.
What I wanted to touch upon somebody like a Brighton, right? What's interesting is 13 to 14 is very liberal, 141.5, but look at 14 to 15, 64.5. Now you might look at it and say that, oh yeah, that's a lot of schedule, but still the turnaround in the second bat is short. It doesn't matter if you have a long 5 days and then 2 days after. You still need those players to rest between those 2 days. So that also has to be read into that.
Correct. But then they have a week off and then a game, another week off and then another game. So in terms of their broader schedule, this is the only time they'll have to slightly stretch a little bit. So that's why it is still genuinely easy. And I think one other point on Arsenal, actually also on Man City, you touched on it, LR. Man City are the early kickoff in game week 17. So if you look at game week 17, that's away to Aston Villa. It's the first game that week. Game week 18, it's the first game, Man City versus Everton. Game week 19, the first game is Man City Leicester. These are good games, right? Man City
Gandhi
Leicester.
games.
Exact. Well, during Boxing Day and stuff, it's not even that early. But it's still early kickoff. And then game week 21, they're again the early kickoff away to Brentford. So if you're looking at a Rico Lewis, for me, that is enough of a reason to say, just wait, man. Those are easy, good games coming up. Now, we may not get anything. The leagues have really dried up. But maybe we do. And then he becomes like a great pick for those weeks. And then the other thing was on Arsenal. Arsenal don't leave London now until 4th of January. So all their games are either at home in London or away games are also in London. So that also slightly affects the travel and,
I think we lost Pras there for a second. Pras, what were you saying?
Sorry, did you get...
You said affects the travel and then we got stuck.
Travel and recovery period.
Okay, cool. So that's much on the schedule. Now let's talk defenders. Real quick now, we're talking about a lot of people who have defensive dilemmas this week with the likes of Mikalenko, etc., etc. The fixtures turning really soon. I think the news we got yesterday that Konate is now expected to be back. It's supposed to be short term. Trent also, I think he was in the squad, right? Midweek, he said he didn't get minutes, but I think Bradley's injury now they said it's a bit more serious. So you're now expecting Trent to get back in the team. But again, Pras, now do we start to make plans? Now again, as we mentioned, the schedule for Liverpool sort of dries up over the next 3 to 4 game weeks, right?
Dries up in the sense as in it's not as bad, or?
No, it's not as good, for example, like Newcastle away, Everton away, Fulham at home, Tottenham away. I would say maybe 2 clean sheets the next 5?
Yes, but I just think they're now quite clearly the top 2 defense. Like I don't mind it. Like same for Arsenal, like you talked about the next 3, like they're the kind of form that they're in, and who else do you trust for clean sheet these days anyway? So I don't mind going for a Konate next week or the week after, or jumping on Trent now that he's fit after the Man City game is out. I don't mind it. Like I think it's still a good defensive play if you could go there.
Ella, what do you think now? Do you invest now that much money in defense? Somebody like a Trent 6.97?
No, I need to see more to invest in a Trent. But people that don't have Haaland have the money. So that's a good place to chance your arm and spend it. I wouldn't mind it. But who do I prefer more? I prefer the Arsenal defenders, given the fixtures, etc. as well, right? So if somebody doesn't have a second Arsenal defender and leaving a spot open for Saka, which the Haaland non-owners should definitely do, Saka is a sensational pick right now. With Odegaard back, Saka, Odegaard and Timber, that right-handed triangle is singing at the moment. Saka's on for a great run of points and goals that's coming. So that's point 1. And I think Timber or Trent are your top 2 options if you have the money at the moment. It's a shame that City are so poor defensively because Guardiola's attacking numbers are insane. They are off the roof at the moment.
But he's been playing so bad, Ella. The last 3 goals, I think Man City were largely all attributable to Guardiola.
Yeah, but when such games happen, and it comes down to how you rate the player. I think Guardiola, I rate him. I think last year before City got him was one of the best centre backs in Europe. I thought he's been good at City. I think he's a strong guy who will come back stronger from a performance like this. So I'm not too worried about that personally. You're thinking that Pep might take him away from the line of fire for a game or 2 and let him come back. I think he throws him in immediately. Like I think these are a team of tigers and lions. At what point do you start seeing City functioning?
I mean, I think they start functioning when I think Diaz is coming back now, and I think Pep made a comment
He's
that
back.
if
He was
he's
on the
back,
bench.
he was on the bench, and I think he mentioned that once he has all his first choice centre backs, he might even start putting some of these guys in midfield. That was a quote,
Yeah.
right? Plus, I think Akanji and
Yeah,
Stones,
yeah, yeah.
etc., he can put in
Akanji
midfield.
Stones can come into midfield, who have then behind them Ake and Diaz and Guardiol. So basically, this is like his version of five at the back. And maybe he was meaning Ake or Guardiol, but he was saying like I need these guys back because they will then cover for the Rodri absence in some way. Like Rico Lewis is trying, but he doesn't have the same, like his presence in midfield. He's not a midfield. He's not a defensive midfielder.
Yep.
Yeah,
And the
he's not.
Kovacic
He's not.
injury also, I think, has affected them negatively. I think what we looked at initially, like I looked at it and said, oh, maybe Lewis starts, but I didn't take into account how much worse that makes the team.
Incredibly worse. Like they need a DM. Gundogan just doesn't have the legs. They lack a bit of athleticism in midfield. Did Nunes play in midfield?
No, winger, I think. Again.
Winger again. That assist came from Nunes for Haaland's second goal. So yeah.
And I think
They need to play him in
Carragher
midfield.
made a good point on Monday Night Football. He said the current City midfield bar Rodri reminds him of Fabinho and Henderson during that last year where the midfield, the legs had gone. The footballer sort of left them to play at this level, and that's sort of what it looks like with Gundogan, at least, right?
Correct.
City just don't have those legs now in midfield. And he said that
Yeah.
ultimately until you rebuild, and he says it just won't get better till January. I don't entirely disagree with that. They might have to buy in January for that position.
Yep.
You know who they're really
So
missing is Alvarez. I think Alvarez just provided so much energy in that engine room in midfield. I think they're really missing him.
Absolutely.
Agree.
I don't think they took into account how few minutes De Bruyne will play. And his injury, did you see that quote from him? Like he's saying he's having pain even kicking the ball. Like that side of when you're in your
But
mid.
he said now he's without pain, right? Something like that he did say.
Yeah,
He said
Friday
now
was
it's
the
better.
first time he was
Yeah.
without pain.
But when you're
So-
in your 30s, like 33, what is he? 33, 34? It starts to get to an age where those things don't just completely go away. Like he probably starts 1 in 2 games, not more than that.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, De Bruyne is going to play now." I don't think he's going to play too much. Like you need to see him start once at least because they've been trending. Even yesterday, he struggled when he came on in the last 20, 30 minutes. Doesn't have the legs at the moment. So that's the thing with De Bruyne. Just while we're on the topic of defenders, I think if you own Gabriel and don't own Raya, I think getting on Timber is great. I think he looks really attacking. I think there's an attacking return or two up your way if you go with that as a second defender pick. If you're if you're comparing Trent to Timber, I can understand the want to go for Trent. But if you're comparing Timber to a Konate, I would recommend going for Timber because I just think that attacking upside is there playing on the right hand side. People are looking at Califari because he's a big set piece threat as well. But the Arsenal guy said that his minutes are not as secure as Timber's minutes are at the moment.
It's a right side dominant team, right? Also, it's just
Yeah.
when all those guys are fit, everything just goes to the right.
By virtue of playing in a triangle with Odegaard and Saka, that might leave him some space to get inside because people will mark the other two over marking Timber. So
That's what happened against Sporting. That's how he
Yeah.
got the assist. Like everybody was focused on Saka and Odegaard, and he was put through.
exactly. And then if you're looking cheap, who do you guys like, man? There's people like Hall, there's the Brighton guys, there's the Chelsea guys,
I'm on board
and
with the
then there
Brighton
is
guys.
Kirkes.
Because Brighton's fixtures, let me just read them out: Southampton, Fulham, Leicester, Palace, West Ham, Brentford. Good run of fixtures in terms of the cheapies.
Yeah, and
I agree.
cleanable fixtures, right? Like even though Brighton are not like a watertight defense, by virtue of just dominating the opposition that's below them, they should get cleans. Like they've kept 3 cleans so far. So I think like in games where they play opposition that's considerably weaker to them, I just think they'll dominate the game so much that they'll keep cleans. So I think it's worth it.
The only problem is there's only dull options there that are nailed really. You pretty much have to go for the Van Heck because I don't think the fullbacks are nailed now. Today we got news that even Lamptey is back in training. I think there's rotation there.
And Dunk is back, so I think if Dunk is like looking like he's fit, I think at 4.5 because of the set piece threat, he's a good option.
Van
also.
Heck has as much, and I think Van Heck is superior right now. With Dunk, I just don't trust players in this congested period who are just coming back for
Fair.
fitness. I think Van
I'm
Heck.
with you. And Igor actually played really well. He got some praise as well. Not that I think Dunk is firmly first choice, but like why it's not worth it. Point one, just get Van Heck.
And I was talking to FPL Instinctive, I was asking his opinion on best veteran defenders. He's like Estupinan would be a pick, but Hinchelwood is coming back to fitness, and that makes his minutes not secure. So that's the point on Estupinan that I wanted to add.
And with Chelsea, I just can't ever get on board with us being a good defense. And the thing now, what's happening is with Enzo in the team, Enzo's the one getting forward. I want to see what happens when Gusto comes back, because earlier Gusto was getting forward a lot. But I think there will be some chopping and changing there over this period. So, and while we have Bob Sanchez in goal, like even like let's say today, as a I'm playing Rodgers this week, I don't feel uncomfortable playing Rodgers. I always feel that Chelsea are going to give up a chance or two.
Agree.
That's
in fact, those sort of open games are ones where I like Rodgers in. So, yeah. How much is Gusto? Because I genuinely think he's a really good, under the radar, very high upside pick. So what's happened with Chelsea, and I think Neil did a really nice article on this, is he showed us that basically when your team plays Lavia and Casido as the double pivot, a lot of the number 10 work is done by Gusto. So he's the one occupying a lot of the attacking positions in the box. That's why, if you remember, a couple of games ago, he had 2 big chances inside the box. But when Enzo is playing with Casido, Enzo is doing the number 10ing, and then Cucurella is the one staying back and doing a lot more midfielding, so to say. So that's how they are shifting between the two balances. But minutes, just by virtue of this, the minutes become slightly insecure.
Right.
So,
and that affects Palmer as well. We'll talk that about the captaincy. But again, the fixtures, you look at it. Villa and Tottenham, you might play a Lavia, Caicedo midfield, but midfield, Southampton, Brentford, Fulham, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Wolves. I think we're going to see Enzo play those games.
Yeah. I think Enzo was a last minute addition, because I think your first choice is still Lavia.
It's opposition dependent. I think when you have to pick the lock, like the Leicester game, for example, where they were practically camped in their half, you don't need 2 DMs. You need one at least more attacking guy.
Okay. All right. Cheers.
What's
that rules Gusto out in your opinion?
I'm not a fan. I think not in December. Maybe it's a more lenient period where you don't have so much congestion. Not now.
All right.
Go back.
I think Colville is still okay.
Colville is still okay. Again, as a centre back, again, I think he is our first choice. I think injury also. I think he's back in training, is what I've heard.
Yeah. Why not Fofana then?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think Enzo made a particular comment. I think because of Fofana's injury, he wants to play him only once a week.
Got it. So that's important. That's a good point to note, and that makes Colville safer. There was a slight doubt about him and his ribs after the game. It's all clear now.
I think he's
fine now.
There was a press conference.
He's even in the squad.
All right. Then I think we need to talk strikers, because people are in the mid-price striker bracket if they're shopping, and then they're in the cheaper bracket. I said it early days. If you're going mid-price, like I really like Jackson as a pick for the next 3 or 4. The fixtures are ridiculously good, and they suit his skill set, in my opinion.
And I don't think his rotation with some interesting comments also from Maresca yesterday, where he spoke up about how Nkunku and Felix are going to get minutes. He kept talking about playing them alongside Palmer. He talked about how Nkunku's best position is at 10. And he never mentioned Jackson in the conversation. And what Jackson is offering now to the team, I think it's not in the skill set really of an Nkunku and a Felix. They're both very good players, of course, but they don't offer what Jackson does. So I think Jackson's absolutely nailed on to start unless he gets suspended. The minutes you might see being managed a little bit. 60 to 70 minute subs might happen, but in terms of security of starts, I don't think he's likely to be rotated at all.
In fact, I think if you're going to rest him, it's going to be one of those games which is like, if I'm looking at the fixtures, something like an Everton away, where the team in the opposition is going to be packed and camped.
We don't need to run in behind.
You don't need to run it behind. I think in the next 3 games, you need Jackson's skill set. Like definitely Villa and Spurs, you need somebody of Jackson's skill set, which are good fixtures for Jackson.
Let's talk. I think let's just talk first the mid-price
forwards. Mid-price forward. So what's your number 1 pick?
I think Pras, you go first.
I mean, I picked last week. I picked Isak. I think he's the best.
How do you feel about that now? Has it changed a little bit now after seeing what you saw last week? Callum Wilson coming back, potentially playing through the middle. Isak's minute maybe being managed.
So slight dent to Wilson coming back, but I don't see any starts. Like I just see 70, 80 minutes that Wilson comes on and he plays 20 minutes with Isak, which is fine. Like I don't think it's that much of an issue. It's certainly less of an issue than a 4th yellow card for Jackson. So like I think Isak's next 3. So obviously I was making the decision last week where he had West Ham at home, which was a better fixture. So if you're deciding this week, of course, short term, I would say, okay, Jackson's fixtures are better. But again, if you look at 16-17, Isak has Leicester and Ipswich.
The captainable fixtures plus, and that we were just talking about those weeks, there is a bit of a void. I mean, 16 not so much. You could go for a Saka or Salah, but 17, where we are talking about all these guys having Saka has Palace, Haaland has Villa, Salah has Tottenham, which is not bad. Isak has Ipswich.
Exactly. So I just think that those weeks, like if you have a 5-week horizon or even a 6-week, like if you take Aston Villa at home in Gameweek 18 as well, I'm happy to have Isak, man. Like there is no yellow card risk. Minutes is secure. I think for 70 minutes, at least he'll be on penalties. Maybe Wilson takes them in the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Maybe there's a game in which Wilson starts. Again, in that, I think Isak should still start. So for me, it's just like a bread and butter good pick. Like I don't think there is any reason for me to go against minutes in a December period when there's midweek games.
I see the point you're making, but I think if I was buying this week, I think it would still be Jackson. Just looking at the short-term pictures and he's just looking so talismanic right now. LR, I think you're already in the Jackson camp. We've concluded that.
Yep. But like, there's also a part of me just saying that why not Cunha? Just save the cash and save it for
I think that comes to sort of a different bracket because I guess Cunha is 7 now, but against Isak is already hold 1.5 million more than him.
Correct. No, I'm just saying that if you're shopping in this bracket, like there's a part of me that's thinking why not Cunha? Like he's a set and forget.
I think if you ask me, I would put Cunha even above the other two guys. Just purely because of security of minutes and the schedule you look at it, I think Bournemouth is a very good fixture for particularly centre forwards. From what I've seen, they concede a lot of chances to the centre. Everton away, not so much, but then you have West Ham, Ipswich and Leicester. And I think Leicester now are going to be a great fixture because Van Nistelrooy has been brought in now and I think he's been given the remit, play more attacking football. Because what we saw that first half against Chelsea from Leicester was absolutely dire. I don't think Premier League crowds are willing to accept that sort of performance anymore. You don't have the Tony Pulis style of football, the Sam Allardyce park the bus that's really encouraged. So I think we're going to see Leicester being a lot more open, and I think we need to look at the teams now who are playing against them and really look to target them over the next few weeks with our attackers.
I just worry about the
Brentford,
data, right?
West Ham,
underlying
Brighton,
data like
Newcastle.
It's good,
Wolves.
but he's half XG over the, I mean, of course, fixtures and all matter, right? But like you're getting a player that is, his underlying data is half of what Isak and Jackson are producing. So unless you completely believe that something has changed in the last 3 weeks on his, not just form, but
I do press in that sense also with him. Like, you know, I was telling LR earlier in our chat, I remember Rafinha during certain seasons, with players in the mid-20s, in particular these South American players and these foreign players, sometimes the penny just drops. And I think Gary O'Neill mentioned it's when the player realizes, okay, I have the potential now to be better than this. I'm not good. I'm very good. I have the potential to it wouldn't surprise me next year to him playing for Barcelona and getting the kind of numbers that Rafinha is posting for them now. So it's sort of the belief has clicked in the player, and I think he just realized his ability, I think, has come there. So I think in terms of form and belief, the fixtures, everything, Cunha is just a no-brainer pick.
He was linked with top Premier League clubs even this summer, by the way, in terms of just talent potential also. Like United were looking at him because these pressing number 10s who are capable of dribbling through attacks is quite trendy as a position just in general football as well. So yeah, I still think if I was buying in mid-price striker today, I would stop for Jackson. Just love the fixtures.
Yep. And the numbers, like you mentioned, was massive overperformance is there. Obviously, 3.11 XGI over the last 6, and he's got something like 5 or 6 goals and 2 or 3 assists over that period. So there is massively overperformance there.
Yeah, but so if you just look at XG 0.3 compared to 0.5, that's a big difference. But look, I get it. Like, there is, if you believe in a different trajectory and fixtures, okay, I get it. But I would struggle. If they were the same price, I would struggle to say why Isak is not better than Cunha. If there's a price difference, I could get it. Like 1.5 million is a lot of money.
Also, just one thing, plus like a non-owner's perspective, if I see a Wolves goal on my app, I'm like, shit. Because I know for a fact that he's either going to assist or score. Like he's involved in everything good that they do. So every good chance that they create, he's not, even if he's not scoring it, he's creating it. And that's something we've seen now for a month. That he's just involved in everything good that they do.
This was true of Newcastle as well, by the way, apart from this week. Like before this, Isak was doing the same.
Callum Wilson is just such a horrible person, man, in terms of like, I hate him when you don't own him, right? Because Callum Wilson, when we talk about, let's say, Odegaard is good for Saka, X is good for Y, Callum Wilson is good for Callum Wilson. Nobody else.
Yeah, it's true. But he's come back after a very long injury. I think he's
going to take penalties. He's going to play through
and the Palace is a good game for Isak. Not then. Cheap strikers, Joao Pedro, end of discussion.
End of discussion. Like,
But who do you
Welbeck is a
prioritize
discussion.
buying this week, right? Because obviously we've seen the transfers fly now for Haaland. If you were to buy one this week, now would it necessarily be a Joao Pedro, or do you go for the mid-price guys? That's an interesting question,
That is
right?
like it's so relevant to your future plans, etc. as well, and how much money you have in the bracket. Like in order of priority, I would just say Jackson, Cunha, Pedro. But I feel like Cunha and Pedro, in my head, I have them at the same level. I don't think one is better than the other. I think because Brighton are a better team than Wolves. I think Brighton are a top 8 attack in the league. They're ridiculously good to watch at the moment. And their fixtures are also as good. So I would say probably save the money and go Pedro. So my order would be Jackson, Pedro, Cunha.
I think my answer, Jackson, if you can, I would ideally like to time that transfer for next week. Because Harry has a theory, and I don't entirely subscribe to it, that they're going to ask Jackson to get booked versus Villa, so that he misses Southampton and he's available for the entire schedule after. It's a very Mourinho way of playing it. I don't think Maresca doing that, really, especially given how important Jackson is to the team, but it's a thought.
It's a thought, but then you're missing out on 2 great Jackson fixtures. You're taking that chance also.
So you buy him next week. Because at least you get the plum fixture of the Southampton one guaranteed, knowing he's not suspended for that. It would be extremely frustrating to buy him.
And you're sure he'll start that, even though it's a midweek game?
I'm pretty confident he started that because it's suited to Jackson's skill set from what I saw.
Villa at home is a plum Jackson fixture.
It is, but I don't think it's as good as Southampton, and I don't think it's as good as, let's say, Joao Pedro's fixture this week.
Did you see the Palace Villa game? Like,
I saw the highlights. I didn't watch the game, no.
Every time I'm watching Salah, I'm like, that's just Jackson. They're just going to look to play behind the high line. Like, Glasner was also like, it's so obvious. So I feel like it's a great entry point. That's all. Your yellow card, though, it can be anything, right? It can be a Costa 2.0, or it can be like him getting this game. You can't predict that.
Yep. I think if you're buying just one forward this week, I think it would be Joao Pedro. Then you assess the landscape after this week.
Pras?
I think the Joao Pedro fever has gone a little bit too high. Like, I feel beginning of the season, like Joao Pedro, I contribute my good start to Joao Pedro because at some point, basically the penny dropped and I was like, Solanke versus Joao Pedro is not that much. And that basically led me to get to Salah.
I attributed to Oscar Bopras.
Well, also that. But basically, at some point, I was like, Joao Pedro is good, man. Like, why am I spending 2 million more for Solanke? And so basically, I feel he's good. But now, because Brighton are playing Southampton, he scored 2 goals in 2 games since coming back. He's still been subbed off on the 60th minute. He's coming back after injury. He's not going to play 90 minutes. You don't I'm seeing people in the chat going, should I do Welbeck to Joao Pedro? No, man. Like, Welbeck is playing every game, close to 90 minutes. Take your time. Like, you can get him also next week. He'll still be there. So I feel like people need to little bit calm down. He's the best pick under 6 million. But there are also other good picks with good fixtures this week. Like I saw Harry saying I should do Chris Wood to Joao Pedro this week. Chris Wood has Ipswich at home. I don't understand. So I'm not criticizing. He's a great manager. Clearly he can use the funds and do something else. But I'm just not getting the euphoria with a player who's just come back from injury who might play 60, 70 minutes in this game. Like you can get him next week.
The thing is, FPL Managers' wood for Pedro is actually as big as Hustler's wood for Pedro. Did you see Hustler's comments again?
Yeah.
He said the same thing again. Like, I love this guy. There's that one player. He's feeding into the main man syndrome. And, when somebody who actually believes, I started following Joao Pedro on Instagram 3 weeks ago. Like, he's Salah 2.0 in terms of how full of himself he is. Genuinely. Like, he knows and thinks and believes that he is the guy. And then Hustler's superseding that thought into his head more and more and more. And you see how he behaves, and he's got it. Like, he's got that swag. So I think it's double down also. So I'm not going to say no to that. I have missed out on Cunha. I'm not missing out on the other Brazilian.
I'm waiting for the comments on this pod because we got comments. Usually, Pras is the only one who doesn't own Haaland, telling everyone to hold Haaland. Now it's the same Pedro. Pras has bought Pedro and he's telling everyone to cool down.
Yeah, I think so.
I can hear
Okay.
you guys.
I hope this is not a... Oh, let's check WhatsApp.
No, it's fine. I can hear you guys just fine.
ये electricity गया होगा.
Oh no, he's back.
You guys are back. I don't think I lost. I didn't lose you guys at any point. I think the chat.
No, we were chatting.
Okay, we're back now. You were saying some very funny story anyway. So what was the story?
No, I was saying that we got comments on the last pod that Pras is the only one without Haaland, and he's telling everyone, hold on to Haaland, hold on to Haaland, Haaland is still good. Now we have Prus buying Pedro and telling everyone, Pedro is not that good.
I'm just saying, guys, like have a balanced view
And
about players. I'm not telling you guys. I'm telling the
after the
people
pod, Prus
listening.
goes like,
I'm just trying to be balanced about picks. Like, okay, you see this PC gamer tag. He's got a super chat here. Should I sell Isak to Pedro or Solanke to Pedro? And I'm like, dude, Isak is playing a good fixture and Solanke is home to Fulham. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I hear you.
of course.
I hear you.
But it's not
As
captaincy.
long as you're utilizing the money, then yeah, captaincy is a big conversation this
Yeah,
week.
because we just spent time. We're already an hour 15 in and we haven't talked about that. Let's do a sleeper plug first, guys, though. We have some matchups here we need to discuss, then let's talk captaincy.
So sleeper this week, we are back with our Premier League. So this is basically the last week of November that you can get involved. So if you haven't joined the league, join the league, practice it out this week, and then be involved for December, because you can win monthly prizes. As we've said many times on this, we have monthly Premier League jerseys for the winners, end of season winners as well. Although if you're joining now, it's getting late to catch up, but you never know. And so if you want to download the app, it's on the top right. And on the bottom of that is basically the league code to join the FPL Wire League. And if you join our Discord, and to join the Discord, you have to either be a member on YouTube or join our Patreon on patreon.com/thefplwire. Then you can join our monthly leagues. And in the monthly league, 3 people get a Premier League jersey every single month. And that doesn't matter if you join late or not. So it's basically what we encourage you to get involved in. Did you guys play the Champions League?
I had good results. I had good results this week. I think fairly predictable. Just missed out narrowly.
Quite predictable.
Yeah.
The only one reason I was a little bit upset from the equalizer from Feyenoord. I was like, but then I was like, no. There's bigger picture. Man City just throwing away a 3-goal lead is more important.
Yeah, man. I'm just remembering what Pep said after the presser again. That was just incredible.
Incredible, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
Captaincy.
right, captaincy.
We go back to the Rob T projections now. Yes. So just round it up for you guys on audio. In terms of goal projections this week, I think Brighton are out on top, 2.45. Chelsea, 2.1. Tottenham, 2.2. Arsenal pretty high up there, 2.15. Liverpool, 1.85. And I think these are bookie adjusted odds, right? These are not algorithm odds. I think they sort of factor in City's defensive crisis a bit more than, let's say, an algorithm does. Am I right, Pras?
Sorry, say that again, Zoff.
I'm looking at Liverpool's goal scoring odds over here at 1.85. I would expect they are a bit higher than what you would expect, right? When they're normally facing Man City, because the bookies have factored in the problems there. Which the algorithms take longer to factor in, because we'll still look at various algos and you'll see that Salah's projections are not as high on those.
So I saw 11FI's model. It's actually also quite high. So like people are predicting, by and large, a Liverpool win.
And algos are very heavily factoring in betting odds stuff.
So it depends on it, but they do factor in historic data a lot more than recent data.
Yes.
It's just how they're built.
Yeah.
So let's.
So what do you guys think?
I think it's
Who's
primarily.
your captain?
Who is it between, right? I think nobody's going to captain a. Let's not, I think that's when the Joao Pedro hype is potentially too much, is when you look to captain him. Just ignore that then. I think it's between Palmer for me. I don't think Spurs asset would appeal. Palmer. I think Saka is very much in the conversation as well. And Salah. Brentford, maybe. I think with Brentford, with Wissa, I wouldn't mind. With Bumo, I'm a little bit more worried. I think if I had Wissa, I would still feel comfortable taking the punt there. Not much else. What about you, LR? What are you thinking?
Like, this is a perfect KO opportunity for Mo Salah, given City's defensive troubles. So I really like that matchup. Whoever plays against Salah, like Liverpool will want to stamp their authority there. And I want, is Pep going to play a slightly more controlling game, or is he going to, he's quite purist that way, right? Like, he's not trying to change the way, even when you're looking at him in press conferences, he's not trying to change the way he's playing. So I think there is
He did, though, when he played Klopp, a lot of times you did see this sort of game ending up in a 0-0 or a 1-1, right?
Fair, actually. That's a fair shout. But more often than not, Pep versus Klopp has been a more goal-scoring game than...
At the Etihad especially, but you could, again, spin that around. He had Rodri available for all those games. So he could park the bus. He doesn't have the personnel to park the bus now.
Yeah, so that's an option. I think Pedro is an option. I think Brighton attacker against Southampton is an option. I was actually that Saturday watching the Brighton Bournemouth game in the first 35-40 minutes. Brighton were so good, man. They were like deliciously good. Like the interplay between Welbeck, Mitoma, and Pedro and Rutter was like so good to watch. I think there could be goals here. I'm not too worried about this. Somebody wants to punt it in a week where captaincy is going to be fairly split. But I still think that Palmer's a good captain. My only thing is that like I wish Jackson was on pens or something of that sort because I like his goal scoring chances more in a game against Villa than I would like Palmer because I feel like Jackson's the runner, right? So that's how I foresee the game going. But Palmer's a really good captaincy shot. I was reading some stats on Scout and Chelsea are third for counter-attacking shots under Maresca in the league. So that sort of matchup also suits because Chelsea have shown themselves to be a good counter-attacking unit. I think Neto's going to be fit as well. So he had a slight problem when he came back from the international break as well. So they'll use him, they'll use Jackson, and Palmer's going to play them through. And I think he's a good captaincy option. And not played. He's probably not going to play midweek football as well. So rested versus a Villa team who's most of the starting 11 played 90 minutes against Juventus.
Russ, where are you leaning?
I think it's Palmer is clear. Like I agree with all of what you guys have said. I just like we forget like the things we say in the previous ones where he has a ceiling, he has many route to points, he can do a free kick, he can have a penalty, running behind like the Brighton game he was also running behind. So yes, I think Jackson is a good pick, but not close. And then if you're comparing between him, Saka, Salah, and Mbumo, so Mbumo, okay, I buy the point. Like Leicester new manager, like you don't need to go there, right? You know, any Brentford could show up in any week. Then it comes to Saka versus Salah versus Palmer. Then I'm saying Saka is an away game. Yes, he could do well, but you know, for me, again, we've always said ceiling versus Saka is more of a hold. Like you hold him and you enjoy the points. You don't have to captain him most weeks, unless it's a very obvious fixture. So West Ham away is a good fixture, but it's not an obvious home fixture. And then Salah, look, I think Salah is close. So if he would be my second choice if I was going there. But again, Man City, when we all say, when is it going to happen? It could happen in an away game where his centre-backs are now fit. Like most of his centre-backs are coming back to fitness. I just don't know why I would. So you have to convince me why not Palmer rather than saying why Salah. Because why not Palmer? Like Palmer is rested. The whole Chelsea team, pretty much the whole Chelsea team is rested. They're at home and he's good. Like, you know, if he scores a goal last weekend, that Madueke is shit, then we're not even discussing that. I'm not even discussing it. Now we're talking about, you know, his form or his couple of blanks over the last 2-3 weeks. I'm not worried. Like he's a good captain this week.
It's not saying Palmer's bad, but it's also saying Salah's matchup and form is really good. That's just the
fair enough.
Like the only stat, if you're asking me, convince you, the one stat that would convince you is no other team has conceded more big chances than Man City since Rodri's been injured. Like that's the stat.
Yeah.
That's the only stat. Like that's the only thing that would make me think about Salah versus Palmer. I've not made up my mind either. I'm with you on that. So
I'm similar position. I think I'm 60-40 Palmer versus Salah at the moment.
Like I also feel. Sorry, just one game theory point. I feel a lot of people will captain Salah this week. Like I think that's the safe captain. Like if you wanted to go EO captain, but if you feel Palmer is equal, or I feel he's slightly better, then do that, right? I mean, that's your pick. Like this is the season to do that. Like if you feel.
You're convincing me, Pras. Because also good thing is at some point City will realize that they're making too many defensive mistakes. At some point they'll realize it. So yeah, I hear you.
Goal shares are similar. Like if City score or if Chelsea score, you'd expect a similar goal share for Salah or Palmer. So then the question is, who has the higher ceiling? For me, who scores 4 goals? Like conceivably, if I told you one of those games had 4 goals for a team, I still struggle to think it's Liverpool. Like I don't think Liverpool thrashed them 4-0 or 4-1 or whatever. But Chelsea could score 4. Like Villa is not a bad team, but still, like the difference in the team strength is still there.
Yeah, and Villa also in a bit of a bad run. I'm just looking at the results now. I don't think they've picked up a win. I think in the last 7 games, or maybe I think Fulham was the last one. But in all competitions, there's a bit of a slump there at Villa. They've been open also against the Spurs game. Also, I mean, they were okay in the first half, but they did give up big chances. So it's not like Villa are very good defensively either.
Kamara played though midweek. That's a big thing.
Did he
And
play
Onana,
again?
I'm not. That's the thing. But Onana's
Yeah.
not fit yet. He wasn't even on the squad yesterday. So that's the thing to take into consideration.
Cool. So I think let's rank our captaincy picks, guys. I think Pras for you, let me just take a guess. Palmer, Salah, and third?
Palmer, Salah, Saka.
Palmer, Salah, Saka. Fair. LR?
Palmer, Salah. Pras has convinced me. Palmer, Salah. I was on Salah before that. But it makes a sense because City will stand up at some point. And then somebody wants to take a punt on Brighton attacker. I wouldn't mind it. The only thing is that we've not seen Pedro play more than 65 minutes. But I do think that was a more pragmatic sub. So
For the red
that's
card.
for the red card. So that's the thing.
I think I'm a similar boat as Pras. I think Palmer, Salah, but I think the third pick for me would be Wissa.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah, all of us are not on Boomer. Boomer's actually had 3 shots in the box or 2 shots in the box, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 5 or 6 games. And the last game he posted 0.0 XG as well. So he's just playing very wide at the moment. He's not showing enough goal threat. That's our issue with Boomer.
Pras, you're a Boomer fanboy. Tell me, in terms of path, what are you thinking over the next few weeks? I see a good transition to Bowen potentially, given the fixtures.
So if you don't have funds in the bank, then Bowen seems good. But when I think about all the other things that he can do and the fact that he'll be playing up top from next week, basically, because in the 3 fixtures he has after this, I expect Boomer to play up top in all 3 of them. And so when you take that into account, I think then I struggle to say, is Bowen a big enough upgrade if I have to go there? Bruno could be interesting. So next week, Bruno plays Arsenal. And then if you have the funds, taking a Boomer up to Bruno could make sense. I could even take him up to Foden. Like I can, this is why I'm saying like the LR style of having so much money, you can go wherever you want, like with funds. So he is on the block, but also not an emergency. Like I'm happy to keep him because of all the things that he does.
I also think Aston Villa is a good game for Boomer. I like that game for Boomer again because I like these runners against Villa. As simple as that.
Let's do our bus teams. Anything else we need to cover? I think we've done forwards, mids, pretty much.
All good. My bus is done, so we'll go to your twos.
Cool. Pras, this is yours. Can you see it or should I read it out?
No, I can see it. And before I start, I would really urge people to like the stream if they are enjoying what they're listening to, because a lot of people just basically come to this section. So that's why I'm saying it on this section. That even if you've come only for the team, like the stream, and if you've only come for the team and are not subscribed, then please do that. That would be very much appreciated. I actually have our goal at 40k at the end of the season. I know we've not said it publicly, but we're trying really hard with
33,
videos.
50 now, so 50 more gets us to 34.
Exactly. So hopefully,
Let's get us to 34 at least before the next video on Monday.
That would be nice. Yeah, you guys also do it in your team selection videos. So
yes.
All right, so enough marketing. So my team is basically Raya and Gabriel. So we did actually talk about Gabriel, that little niggle that he had over the Champions League. Now, the base assumption for all of us is that he's fine. A lot of the things that we're hearing is that he's okay, but we'll see, right? So that's the double Arsenal defense, doesn't change. Pinnock home to Leicester. So I'm happy Brentford kept a clean sheet last game week. So I'm hoping they do it again this week. And then 8 Nouri just for attacking threat. So this week I don't even need to bother about Rico Lewis, right? So I have Pinnock to cover. Then the 4 guys we've talked about for captaincy in midfield. So it's good to see them in the midfield. And Cunha, Isak, and João Pedro. So look, I mean, on paper the team looks nice. So we'll see how it goes.
It'll be a nice green arrow. Yeah. For those that have just joined for this section, also Pras is sitting at 55k, gunning for 10k before the end of the year.
Oh, please. I've said on my team selection, I need to be top 100k by end of the year. Negative things can also happen, man.
Yes, I know, but we'll be optimistic for you, Pras.
All right, appreciate it.
This is my team. I've used up 1 free transfer already for Raul to Pedro. I have 1 left and I have 0.8 in the bank. Flecken in goal, Nouri, Gabriel. Now the third defender is a bit of a crisis this week. Is between Greaves, Mikalenko, and Lewis. Bit of a car crash. In midfield, Salah, Boomo, Palmer Cap, and Rogers. The Semenyo suspension came at the worst time. I think he put Semenyo in that Rogers position. It looks like a much better team. Strand Larsen, Haaland, and João Pedro. So the options are with 0.8 in the bank, I can go straight Lewis to Timber. That sort of sorts out the weakest link in the team. And Semenyo is playable most week after that now. I can even bench Strand Larsen, etc. Do something over that position. Or the alternate now is take the hit, go for Haaland to, let's say, I'll probably go Cunha. And then what I'll look to do, probably get Jackson in for Strand Larsen the week after. because I just want to get Cunha in place for this entire festive period. And I don't mind 2 of the Wolves forwards also against Bournemouth. It's not a bad matchup. And then I think I would like to move Rodgers to Saka instead of Semenyo, because I think the fixtures now for Semenyo are quite good. You have more nailed minutes with Rodgers. Now we have a 3-game period coming. Will Rodgers start all of them? We might see Watkins, Duran, etc. also over that, right? So I think as of now, I'm leaning towards a hit for Haaland out, for Cunha, and Rodgers to Saka. I've given a 0.4 team value on that move right now if I did it on Saturday, but just because I've given up that team value doesn't mean I shouldn't do the move, right?
I mean, if Salah got in, he had to play twice. You remember we were talking about it, right? On Saturday night, Salah had to play his Sunday game and the Champions League game. If Salah gets injured, Haaland becomes optimal. Like Haaland becomes the player to have.
Exactly.
So it was worth waiting, I think.
Yep. What do you think, Press? Take the hit?
I would look at your midfield, right? If you get Saka in and you get Cunha in, that attack looks beautiful as well. I mean, it's like the team I have. So why wouldn't I love it?
Pretty much the team I deviated from 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And again, it goes to the point now, do I be stubborn and be like, no, I've deviated from the path and I maintain this, or like accept that like, no, I made a mistake and I just want to go back to the team I had 3 weeks ago.
And you should have a lot of money in the bank still after this.
Yeah, after that I have loads still left over because Job Edwards, and that's what I can say. I can even go last into Jackson the week after. So I'll
Even
have like
after that, you should have a lot of money left, no?
Another 1.1 order again. I can still
This
get
is why you can go nuts with the money. Like you can actually make forward moves which are different from other people. Like a lot of people were at Isak last week. You can deviate, get Isak, get Jackson, or there's so many other paths, even in defenders, that you can go to next week.
LR, what are you thinking?
I mean, you pick your bed, man. What do I say?
We're in the same boat. So, But which way are you leaning now after our discussion? Haaland keep or sell?
Keep.
Interesting. That should be fun. Then I think you might be the only one flying the Haaland flag.
It's just.
But tell me something now. Next week, would you captain Haaland home to Forest over Palmer Southampton? I think
if I double down, I double down. Yeah.
You have to in that sense. Fair enough.
I think if you chance it, you go for it. You go for the whole hog.
You have to. There's no point having Haaland because then you're pretty much having him up against a Cunha. It becomes a very apple-to-apple thing. Because somebody asked me in my article for the Q&A also, is Haaland the ultimate differential? I said he's only the ultimate differential if you captain him. Otherwise, he's just a differential.
Yeah. So that's it. That's where we are. I hope I have to make the moves tonight. I don't know yet.
There's no
I'm
price
still
changes happening today.
Yeah, like the difference is 60-40, not even like I've been between selling him to keeping him, dilly-dallying at least 2 or 3 times this week. So we'll see how we feel tomorrow morning if we don't have to make the moves today.
Yep. Let's wrap up.
All right, man. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit like and subscribe. And Zoff and I will have shorter versions of our team selection videos out tomorrow. And until then, good luck this week,
Monday
whatever
pod.
you do. And we'll see you on Monday for the pod.
Yeah, even with the midweek games, we'll try to be there. So we'll have our main pods even during that shorter period. So see you guys on Monday.
Fantastic,
All
guys.
right. Cheers, guys.
Hit like
Good
and
luck and
subscribe.
take care.
Thank you and good luck.